I'll never forget, I was teaching a masterclass in Berklee College of Music, and the first question all the students had for me was, how do I make money? How do I make money? And I said to them, you're going about it completely the wrong way. Your first question should be, who are the best musicians that I can learn from? Because if you're not creating original, genuine, heartfelt music, nobody's going to relate to you.
I think Juan might be rehearsing back there.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Hi, sorry for crashing the party, but we heard your music loud and clear out there.
You could hear me outside on the street?
Oh, definitely.
Oh my God, that's a loud amp.
So what are you rehearsing right now?
Oh, I'm practicing here in the gorgeous Austrian Cultural Forum in New York City, getting ready for a solo concert.
Where's that going to happen?
On many stages around the world.
And when you're on stage, what's really important to you? What do you need for the perfect rehearsal or performance?
You definitely need wonderful equipment, reliable strings, reliable amplification, and just hopefully a good room that responds acoustically to the vibrations of your instrument.
So lucky for us, you like and trust Thomastik-Infeld strings. They are used both to create sound and silence. What does that concept mean to you?
Well, first of all, for me, the Thomastik-Infeld strings is like a Rolls Royce. I've always said that as a joke, that they're the Rolls Royce of strings. There is an unbelievable role that the instrument, the bass instrument, has in music when it comes to rhythm. It can be very busy or it can be very silent. So if we take, for example, something just a simple traditional bass line. You see there's a lot of space between the notes, so silence is extremely important, but we could also have something very busy, very percussive, maybe something like. So the balance between silence and vibration is one of the hardest things that a musician can master in his life.
Since you are in New York and we are in New York, would you be kind enough to take the time to show us around your city?
I would love to show you around town. Come on, let's go.
Do you remember the first morning you woke up in New York after moving here from Colombia? What did that feel like? What was on your mind?
It was extremely cold. I mean, although Colombia, where I live from in Bogota, is about 3,000 meters high. But the first impression that I had was, I'll never forget the feeling when I had snow in my hands for the first time, and also the first time that I ever saw a squirrel. There's all these squirrels running around in the apartment where I was living, so that was a hell of an experience.
So you got out of bed and you went to play in snow and looked at all the squirrels, and what was the first place you visited in New York, in Manhattan?
First place that I visited was this oversized supermarket. We don't have any of that in Colombia. It was amazing to see. You know, I was used to getting the milk from the farmer or the eggs from the farmers, and then all of a sudden you're inside of this warehouse, which is just rows and rows of abundance and food. And actually a really funny story that happened to me was I opened up the eggs and I was checking them. Eggs in Colombia are brown, and When I first opened them, they were white. And I said, oh, of course, that makes sense, you know. White people, white eggs. Brown people, brown eggs. One thing that's beautiful about New York City is there's so many cultures here. It was very easy to feel like I'm in Colombia when I was here. You know, neighborhoods like Corona and Queens, it's full of Colombians. I mean, even all the signs are written in Spanish. So I think this city welcomes so many foreigners on a daily basis. It's very easy to blend in. So the change was not so extreme because so much Spanish-speaking people were here already.
Would you say that music crosses borders?
Absolutely. Frequencies cross through your body. Of course music crosses borders. That's what unites all of us. If I'm able to come to New York City and play with musicians that I've never met before from other countries, then we've crossed the border right there immediately. So that's the magic of music.
So within your career, what was the most difficult border for you to cross as a musician?
The most difficult border for me to cross as a musician is ignorance. There's too much ignorance in the world and lack of respect towards other people's nationalities and cultures. I think that if you can cross that border, you will have an open and beautiful life.
You were born in Colombia and you lived in New York, I think, for about 16 years. Where do you feel home the most? You're talking about cultures, you're talking about people needing to connect with each other. Where do you feel you connect the most with others?
When I have an instrument and an audience, I can connect with anybody. It doesn't matter where they're from, doesn't matter what language that they speak. Language is a barrier, but music is not. So I feel the most comfortable in a musical situation because the frequencies are penetrating the person's body and soul. And somehow, indirectly, I can speak to them, what I feel, what I dream. And sometimes we share the same dreams, sometimes we share the same feelings. That's very beautiful. So that's one of the places where I feel the most comfortable. I didn't choose New York. New York in a way chose me. I had to leave Colombia. We had a guerrilla war situation, very terrible political situation happening in the country. And it forced us to flee, to be refugees here, me and my family. And the one place where we could come first was New York City. I mean, there was times when I was sleeping on the street. I was literally, like Jaco and so many great people. You have ups and downs in your career, and at the very beginning where nobody knew me, and I was performing on the street and literally sleeping in churches sometimes just to get by. I mean, those were critical times where you're sitting there and you're thinking, what am I doing? Why do I have this thing around my neck? And I stuck to it. If you follow through with your dream, with your vision to the fullest, if you give yourself completely, I was willing to just eat rice. Sometimes there was no food, I would just eat rice, for example, whatever. But if you have that level of hunger and dedication, I'm a big believer that somehow the universe will conspire so that you can succeed as well. So that was probably one of the most challenging things, sleeping on the street. That definitely questioned everything that I was doing. Yeah.
After your first paid gig, do you remember how you put that money to use?
Yes. The first thing I did, it was a very beautiful feeling to go home with money, which I didn't even expect to get, and to put it in your mother's hands and say, here, I can contribute to the monthly expenses. That was a very, very beautiful, liberating feeling.
Why didn't you expect that money to come in?
Because I'm having so much fun. And I guess we live in a world where it's expected, where like, yeah, you only make money if you suffer or whatever. But music is just a joy for me to do, and it's just a gorgeous consequence that they can pay me for doing it. I didn't want to be a bass player originally.
Yes.
What I wanted to be was a piano player. My brother was learning drums, and he was like, "I'm a drummer. I need a bass player," and he bullied me into being a bass player. But and the first song that I ever played on the bass was "Smells Like Teen Spirit" from Nirvana. Can you believe that? I'll never forget it. And after 1 hour of playing, my fingers were bleeding. It was hilarious. I said, how the hell? Why do people play this instrument? Look where I am now.
So with all this teen spirit running through you, what were the biggest challenges you had to face on your way to actually make it as a musician?
Well, I never saw music as a challenge. I always saw it as an opportunity to communicate, an opportunity to share, an opportunity to celebrate life and the human spirit. So, you know, I never saw it as this like challenging thing. I'll never forget, I was teaching a masterclass in Berklee College of Music, and the first question all the students had for me was, how do I make money? How do I make money? And I said to them, you're going about it completely the wrong way. Your first question should be, who are the best musicians that I can learn from? Because if you're not creating original, genuine, heartfelt music, nobody's going to relate to you. So what people associate as a challenge just being money, that's not music. Music is life. When I got here, it's in 1984, and I was a little kid. I was maybe 8, 9 years old, and there was a man right there with a bass and a boombox. He had and he was playing records, and he was screaming to the people, "I'm the greatest bass player in the world. I'm the greatest bass player that ever lived. And this is the music that I recorded." And at that moment, I didn't know who he was. About 20 years later, I got a phone call to be the soloist with the Jaco Pastorius big band project. And I was reading the biography from Bill Mikowski. And Bill Mikowski told the stories of the last years of Jaco Pastorius, where he was homeless, and he was in Washington Square Park asking people for change. And I gave Jaco Pastorius money when I was a little boy. And 20 years later, I'm performing his music around the world. I have no words to describe how my heart sunk when I read the biography and I realized that that was Jaco Pastorius, who was right there on the floor asking for help. Jaco, we all love you. Always here. I want to show you something right here. Come with me. So like, usually in summer, right here, they set up a bunch of different places where they let a lot of jazz musicians play together in quartets. And one particular summer day, I was performing here in front of the arch, and this guy with dark glasses came up to me, smiling from ear to ear. And he said to me, "Hi, I'm Peter Infeld. Do you know the strings Thomastik-Infeld?" And I said to him, "Not really, I don't know them, but I would love to try them out." I said, "Do you make bass strings?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, we do." And he said, "You're very talented. If you're ever in Vienna, please come say hello." And it's unbelievable, first of all, how open-hearted Peter Infeld was, that he just goes up to a street musician, street performer, and with that smile just says, "Hey, you've got talent. How can I support you?" I mean, that's something that I'll never forget about Peter. His ability to always make you feel important, always make you feel great. He supported every single aspect of my career, and I miss him dearly. He was my friend. And he was a bit of a musical father to me, because it was hard for me in the beginning to believe that I was good enough to be a solo artist. And Peter Infeld was somebody that would literally yell at me, "You are great!" Just like that. "You are the greatest bass player." And those words helped me to be who I am today. And it all started right here. And then it moved on to Vienna, and after Vienna, to the whole world stage. Thanks to Peter Infeld. Love you very much, Peter. Thank you for everything that you've ever done for me and for all of us musicians. You are one of us. Not many people know this. There's one song on my Art of Contrabass Guitar album, which is called Seis Rosas. That means 6 roses.
Do you mind if I take a picture?
And when Peter had his funeral, all of the people always come, and as the, how do you say this, as they put the coffin in the ground, you know, the people put the roses inside. And I'll never forget that I had 6 roses in my hand because I play 6 strings. And I remember before putting the roses on his grave, I said, 1 rose for each string. And that's why I wrote that song for him. Yeah. Rest in peace.
So you spent many, many years in New York City. What is the biggest changes that you've experienced while you were living here?
I mean, just look at that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I ended up in Vienna. When I saw the attacks on September 11th, and these monumental buildings fell, and there was a cloud of death all over New York City for months, which a lot of people don't realize how long it took for that to go away. And as I saw those buildings fall down, and as I saw people jumping from the buildings, there was something inside of me, inside of my spirit, said to me, a lot of dreams died today. And that's when I realized I wanted to finish my dream of studying composition, and that's why I went to Vienna, Austria, to study classical music from one of the greatest cities known for classical music. And as you can see, 2 towers fell and a new one rises. And that's basically one of the clearest messages that you'll ever experience in life. You may fall, but you can rebuild. You may be destroyed, but you can rise. But it has to be done by accepting the help of others and accepting the love of others. The connection between Vienna and New York for me was always very strong, because for me the original melting pot was Vienna. Vienna, Austria had all these cultures coming through, artists, composers, philosophers, Freud, you name it. And New York City is an extension of that. The original one for me, the original melting pot, is Vienna. And it makes a lot of sense for a musician to come to New York City, to go to Los Angeles. But if you really want to learn about world music, about classical, about arts and history, all of the fundamentals are in Vienna.
In New York and Austria and on stage, you're surrounded by a lot of noise. Do you ever need silence? How important is that to you?
Oh, silence is everything. The spacing between notes, the spacing between houses and architecture. I mean, look at this. This street is a perfect example. This is a very noisy street, just with how compact everything is. There's no space. And that will force a certain amount of noise or energy or contingency, which will sound one way. But music that has a lot of spacing, a lot of silence, a lot of rests, and dynamics This is usually the music that people are feeling the most intense. Either really loud music, the people love to dance and move, but total silence, inside of the silence exists the secrets of the universe. Really.